Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we got a quick thing to discuss as we have a trade from the NHL. The Chicago Blackhawks and Vancouver Canucks have made a trade. We'll get to what pieces are going which way coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Intent Hockey Show. Now, before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We are so close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I'll never really do so well if you guys don't forget to subscribe. So I'm going to kick things off today by discussing the trade that we're going to discuss here today. The Chicago Blackhawks and Vancouver Canucks made a trade. Now, just a little bit of clarity as to why this trade happened. The Chicago Blackhawks recently terminated the contract of Corey Perry. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. There's a lot of speculations about what's happening with Corey Perry right now, but apparently there's some sort of bad thing that Corey Perry did, and the Chicago Blackhawks saw fit to terminate his contract. So Perry was brought in the offseason to sort of be Bedard's line mate, sort of be a veteran leader, help him grow. The team also brought in Taylor Hall, who's a decent top six forward. They brought him in to be a solid leader for Bedard. Former first overall pick himself, he could definitely help Bedard grow. But Hall is currently out for the rest of the season due to a knee injury. That's going to keep him out for the rest of the season. Maybe he returns later in the season, but it sounds like he's going to be out for the remainder of the season. Perry's now terminated his contract, so he's now off the team. So with all of that being said, that the two players who the Hawks brought in to sort of mentor Bedard and sort of be mentors that Bedard needs, and Perry and Hall, also players who could play with him, have both now left the team. Perry being terminated with his contract, Hall being out for the season with an injury. So with that being said, the Hawks saw fit to try and add another forward to play with Bedard over the next little while, and they do wind up getting one from the Vancouver Canucks. So the trade as follows: the Chicago Blackhawks acquire Anthony Beauvillier from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a conditional 2024 fifth-round pick. So this is a decent trade for both sides. We'll look at this trade from the Hawks side first. It's a very low-risk trade for the Chicago Blackhawks. They have a ton of draft capital. Trading away a fifth-round pick is not overly bad, and they get someone who can play with Bedard. Beauvillier is a really good middle six forward. He's played over the past number of years with the Islanders for the most part. He was traded last year as part of the Horvat deal. With the Islanders, he had a couple of 30-point seasons. He didn't really have a ton of really great success in New York in the past couple of years. He hadn't done overly well. Last year, he had 20 points in 49 games with New York, was traded to Vancouver, and then had 20 points in 33 games. So he didn't do overly bad, and combined, that was his best season on record, 40 points in 82 games. So that was really fantastic for him. But even though he had 40 points in 20 games, he didn't start this year overly well. So far, has 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points in 22 games with the Canucks right now. So he hasn't been overly productive. At this point in time, he's probably on pace to hit somewhere around 30 points again this year. So he can put up 30 to 40 points. He can probably put up between like 10, 15 goals, maybe 20 on some occasions. He's still a very good forward in my opinion. He's in the final year of his deal too, and I think this is a very fantastic pickup for the Hawks. So basically, for the Hawks, Beauvillier is going to be a short-term solution to play with Bedard and play in the Hawks' top six. He should be able to get a chance to play with a couple of good players, maybe up his value, get some more points, maybe playing with a guy like Bedard, and if the value is high enough, maybe the Hawks flip him at the deadline. I think that's a very likely possibility. He's in the final year of a $4.125 million contract. If the Hawks were to retain some salary and move him, sort of like they were going to do with Perry, I think Beauvillier at $2 million for a cup-containing team on the third line would be a fantastic addition for the cup-containing team. So I think there's a very likely chance that Beauvillier, now that he's with Chicago, maybe gets flipped at the deadline. I think it's a very likely possibility, but for a time being, Beauvillier will be remaining with the Hawks, probably in their top six, and I could definitely see him play with Bedard. So basically, Beauvillier is sort of a Hall replacement for the season. And once we get closer to the deadline, I do think there's a very likely possibility the Hawks move him. Maybe there's a possibility that the Hawks wind up signing him to an extension if he plays well enough, and it seems like he's a really good fit in Chicago. Maybe that's a possibility, but I think the very likely possibility is that Beauvillier ends up getting moved, possibly with salary retention at the deadline if he starts to pick up his pace and point-wise a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's a very fantastic pickup. So solid middle six forward, final year of his deal, could possibly be flipped to the deadline, could play with Bedard for a time being, and sort of as a Hall pair replacement. For the Canucks, this is helps them on a couple of different levels. For a first part, they had an overabundance of wingers. They needed to move a winger. It sounded like they were getting some more players back in the not-too-distant future who are injured. They do have a lot of good players in the minors too who could definitely come up. So they need to clear a little bit of roster space on the wing. and they are able to do so by moving a winger. So this should give a couple of younger players like a Nils Höglander a shot in the top six, and maybe be able to call up a guy like Vasquez to play in the bottom six now. So I think that's a very likely possibility. So this frees up some more roster space on the wing, which is something the Canucks needed. Second, it does free up some cap space. Beauvillier had a $4.125 million cap hit with no money retained and with no contract coming back to Vancouver. They free up $4 million in cap space, which should be able to allow them to help them make other moves to help improve this team even further. And with Beauvillier, he was sort of like a third line forward in Vancouver, so they have a lot of other wingers that they could replace him with. So he wasn't an overly integral part of the team. He was a pending UFA, and he was making a decent amount of cap space. So they are able to move him. That frees up some wing space. It gives Höglander a shot in the top six. It gives them a possibility of calling up a guy like Podkolzin in the bottom six. So that's a really good move for the Canucks. It gives them some more cap flexibility, and on top of that, they do get a fifth-round pick. Their condition on a 2025 fifth-round pick is the Canucks will get the higher one of the two fifth-round picks that the Hawks have right now. They have the Flames fifth-round pick and their own fifth-round pick in the 2024 draft. So the higher of those two will be given to Vancouver. The lower of those two will be given to Toronto as a prior trade condition for the Blackhawks. So the Canucks are most likely probably going to get a top 5 pick in the 5th round. So once again, it's a low-end draft pick, but it's definitely a really good pickup for the Canucks. And on top of that, this should free up enough cap space for them to go out and get a defenseman. We know that they really want to go and get a defenseman. There's some talk that they could go after Ethan Bear, who's currently recovering from an injury. Maybe that's what they go for. I think that's a very likely possibility. There's been a lot of talk after this trade went down that maybe they once again re-engage in talks around Zadorov. I know Elliot Friedman said that he finds it difficult to believe that the Canucks and Flames would agree on a trade, given the fact the Flames don't really want to make a trade with a division rival. But if the Canucks can offer them the best package, maybe this is a sort of trade that works for both sides. I could definitely see that happening. So it'll be interesting to see. But I could definitely see the Canucks either go after a defenseman in the trade market, whether it be like a Zadorov, a Tanev from Calgary, or maybe they go elsewhere and look for another option. But I think they could definitely stand to add another right shot defenseman. Maybe they go after Ethan Bear. He could definitely be another option. Bear's a decent second pair defenseman who I think could definitely work well as long as he's healthy from his injury. So it will be interesting to see. But with the cap space the Canucks now have after this Beauvillier move, I think there's a very likely possibility that this Canucks team will wind up making a trade of some sorts in the not-too-distant future to improve their blue line. So for both sides, I think this is a win-win deal. In my opinion, I think this was a good deal for both sides. For the Hawks, it gets them another top-six winger, someone who can replace Hall and Perry, who are now gone for the season. Hall for the season, Perry's been terminated his contract. So with those two gone, they needed someone else to play with Bedard. Beauvillier is going to be a fantastic player. He's very speedy. He can put up some points. Not very good point producer, but he can put up 30 to 40 points, 10, 15, maybe even 20 goals. So I think this is a very good option for the Hawks to go and get a winger. He can play with Bedard for a time being, and then if he's playing overly well and there's interest in him at the trade line, they could retain some salary on him, bump his cap it down to $2 million, and then trade him at the deadline. I think that's a very likely possibility. As for the Canucks, they get rid of a winger, which gives them a little more flexibility on the roster to give guys like Höglander and Podkolzin more opportunities at the NHL level. It also gives them a little bit more cap flexibility, given the fact they were right up the cap and they needed some more cap flexibility, so it gives them more cap flexibility that way. It gives them another draft pick, which, I thought they would have gone a little bit more if they were to trade Beauvillier, maybe like a 3rd or 4th round pick, but a 5th round pick that's probably going to be top 5 5th round pick in this year's draft. It's not overly bad. It gives them another draft pick in their arsenal to possibly flip at the trade deadline to possibly acquire something that helps them improve their team. And it also gives them enough cap flexibility to go after the defenseman, whether it be Zadorov, Bear, or another player. So it'll be interesting to see, but this is a really good trade in my opinion for both sides. Canucks get some space on the wing, cap space, and they're able to possibly go out and get a defenseman now. Hawks get a player who can play with Bedard now that Hall and Perry are gone. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comments. Does the Hawks win this trade by adding Beauvillier? Do the Canucks win this trade by moving a winger, getting some cap flexibility, and possibly being able to now add a defenseman in the not-too-distant future? Or do you think it's more of a win-win situation in which both teams come out on top in this deal? Definitely. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this down in the comments. So that's what I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you're related to it, remember to subscribe down below. We are so close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to lose all of you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.